Hi everyone, we are going to look at modeling systems of equations. And modeling systems of equations is essentially us taking equations and that sort of thing and actually putting them into real life scenarios. That being said, our very first scenario I wouldn't say is necessarily very real life. When I think about jars of nickels and dimes, how many people actually have a jar containing $11.20 that only contains nickels and dimes? Mine contains like quarters and pennies, and there's even some buttons in there and that sort of thing. This is not real life. Either way, that being said, this can help us in terms of understanding what we need to do. So, modeling systems can be a little bit confusing, and the reason why it's confusing is it's hard for us to determine what our variables are and then what our equations will actually look like afterwards. So they seem a little mysterious in that capacity. So looking at this particular problem, we need to sort of decipher this and actually turn it into a couple of equations that we can then solve. So we have Hannah. She has $11.20 in a jar that contains only nickels and dimes. There are 140 coins in the jar. So is this going to be an equation or an inequality? This is going to be an equation. First off, it's because we don't see any of those less than or greater than or at least sort of statements. Instead, we just see very finalized statements where we have like are and has, like just very like this is this sort of statements, like where we'd have equal signs. Let statements is this. So I want you to create variables, and we're going to say let x be, and it allows us to keep a little bit of organization here. So we need to figure out what are the variables in this, and we're going to need to have two variables because we're going to create a system. That means we're going to have two equations that we're going to compare, and we're going to find out what x and y is. So Hannah has $11.20 in a jar that contains only nickels and dimes. Our variables that we have are nickels and dimes. So let x be the number of nickels, and then we'll say let y be the number of dimes. Now note, I am not saying the amount that nickels are worth. I'm not saying the amount of dimes are worth. I am saying the number of nickels. So the physical, like saying I have 5 nickels would mean I have 25 cents, or I have 5 dimes, that would mean I have 50 cents. I am saying I need the number of nickels and the number of dimes, be x and y. And so now I'm going to create two equations. One of these equations will be fairly straightforward. There is 140 coins in the jar. That means whatever x is plus whatever y is should be equal to 140. So my first equation, x plus y, is equal to 140. My second equation has to do with this total value of money. That means I'm looking at the value of a nickel and how many nickels there are, and the value of a dime and how many dimes there are, and those equal $11.20. Now it's important that I pay attention to what the value of a nickel is. The value of a nickel is not 5 cents. I mean, it is, but I'm not writing this in terms of cents. I'm writing this in terms of dollars. So my value of a nickel is $0.05, essentially. And dimes are 0.1 times the number of dimes to get my total amount of money in dollars. Now I could totally write a different equation here and have it be 5x plus 10y equals 1,120 cents. But it's very important that I pay attention to the value of a nickel in terms of the dollars, value of dimes in terms of dollars, or the value of nickels and dimes in terms of cents, and then turn this value into cents instead of dollars. That is really, really important. Otherwise, you will make a mistake. Cool? Cool. Now we actually need to solve this. And so if we solve this, we can do substitution or elimination. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do substitution. I'm going to turn this x is equal to 140 minus y, and then I'm going to put this whole value in for this x value here. So I'm going to say 0.05 times 140 minus y, plus 0.1 y is equal to $11.20. And I'm going to solve for the y value. So I'm going to get out my handy little calculator. 140 times 0.05 is $7. So I'm going to do the distributive property. Get 7 plus 0.05y plus 0.1 y is equal to 11.20. I'm going to continue working this out. 7 plus 1.15y is equal to $11.20. Subtract 7 from both sides. I get 0.15y is equal to $4.20. And so I get y is equal to 28. So the number of dimes I have is 28. Now I'm going to put this same information into my original equation. I should put it into this one. So I get x plus 28 equals 140. That means 140 minus 28 gets me x is equal to 112 nickels. I'm going to make sure, or nickels, let's spell that correctly. I'm going to make sure that as I do this, I box both of my answers if they're not going to be right next to each other. I'm also, you don't need to write these particular answers in terms of x comma y. You don't need to create an ordered pair unless, unless you're just looking at two equations versus two equations in context. These are two equations in context, so they need to have labels. And I can say x is equal to 112 nickels and y is equal to 28 dimes and be done with it just like that. Ideally, you're also putting these in a similar place on your paper, so I'll easily be able to see them when I go to grade your test and things like that in the future. Anyways, we have 2 more videos that we are going to watch with this. We're going to be looking at writing a systems of inequality in the same capacity. And then after that, we are going to look at a couple more practice problems. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope it will be helpful. Bye.